times you lived in Bangalore, that you give speeches, not really in official outfits like spiritual centers or so, but mainly in places where you stay, and that people actually come to visit you and ask questions. Not that you really answer the questions, but you give at least some feedback about questions they ask. And if people make a book out of it, and some people make publications out of it, then there is really no copyright. And I heard you say, I don't even mind if you publish it under your own name. Go ahead. And I even read a book, I don't think it's published, but in manuscript, written by a woman that visited you in Bangalore a lot. And it's quite an interesting book where it turns out that you spend your days having nice talks and teasing people a lot and having nice shopping sprees and eating chocolate and watching television. And of course in India there is there's a kind of very heavy pressure of religion, of course. It's an ancient religion there. There's many religions, of course. And here in the West is this idea that a lot of spiritual teachers from India might be our only possibility to save humanity on the way to disaster. And indeed in the 60s a lot of young people went to the Eastern countries, and especially India. There was something we called the India Express, which is an endless stream of Volkswagen buses, all filled with brown rice and macabiotic food and whatever, to find enlightenment in the East. And a lot of people came back with strange looking eyes and different IDs. And since then, a lot of Indian gurus have flooded the marketplace of what we sometimes here call the spiritual or the New Age supermarket. But you give a little different approach to all this. First of all, you don't call yourself a guru. And second of all, you don't really like what the kind of wares, you compare them literally with salesmen. So, as far as I understand, there is, according to what I heard, and I've talked with you this afternoon, a tape that we're probably going to play on Salto, so watch out for the Saturday night show. You might have a little interview, quite a long interview actually. We talked for about 45 minutes, I think, where you can see UG, because people call you UG. But according to what I heard, there's very little hope that we can change anything in our life. Also, we have the feeling that we have to improve ourselves or find at least a way out of our misery, because a lot of people think you have to change or get to a higher level, and therefore they meditate or do yoga or do rebirthing or follow therapies or go to lengthy efforts to find a way out of what they consider a bad place to be. They want to be enlightened. They think there's more to life that they experience right now. Is there any more than what we have right now?
The moment we ask the question that there is something more to our life than what we are doing, is the beginning of this whole questioning mechanism. And unfortunately, what has created interest in the Western nations is that you refer to the hippie generation. They tried drugs, and that changed to quote and unquote what they call levels of consciousness in them. For the first time, they experienced something outside the area of their experiencing structure. And once they experienced something extraordinary, which actually it is not outside the area of our experiencing structure, but it's still within the field of the experiencing structure, they look around for varieties of experiences.
They want more.
More and more of the same and less of the other. And that has created a market, as you said, for all those people from the Eastern countries, India, China, and Japan, to flood into these countries and provide the answers for their questions. But actually, they are selling a shoddy piece of goods. What people are really interested in is not to find out the answers for their problems, but some comforters. As I said, they are selling the ice packs to make you feel comfortable to bear the pain. Nobody wants to ask the basic fundamental question, what is really the problem there? What is it that they want? What is it that they are looking for? And this is taken advantage by the people from the East. And if there is anything to what they claim, that they have the answers and solutions for the problems that are facing us all today, it doesn't seem to operate in the country where they come from. Now, that's the basic question which these people should throw at them. Has it helped the people of your own countries? Does it operate in your own lives? Nobody asked them the question. But they who flood these countries with 100 different techniques, which nobody has put them to the scientific text. You don't have any statistical evidence to prove that there is something to what they claim. But the gullibility and credulity of the people is exploited by them. And once you have everything that you need, the material goodies, you look around and ask the question, is that all that is there to it? So that situation is exploited by the people. That's all that is happening there. They don't have any answers for the problems facing us today. What is responsible for the human tragedy or the malady that we are confronted with today is that we are interested in maintaining the identities that is created by our cultures. And we have tremendous faith in the value system that is created by our culture or society or whatever you want to call it. But we never question them. Our interest is to try and fit ourselves into that value system. And it is this demand from the society or from the culture to fit us all into that value system is the cause of man's tragedy. So somewhere along the line, there occurred in the human consciousness the demand to find out the answers for their aloneness, their isolation from the rest of the species on this planet. I don't even know if there is any such thing as evolution. If there is one, somewhere along the evolutionary process, man separated himself or isolated himself from the rest of creation on this planet. So in that isolation, he felt so frightened that he demanded some answers to fill that loneliness, that isolation from the rest of life around him. And so religious thinking was born out of that situation. And it has gone on and on and on for centuries. And it has not really helped us to solve the problems created by mankind. All the political systems that we have today are nothing but the warty outgrowths of the spiritual, religious thinking of man. Unfortunately, they have failed, and a void is created as a result of the total failure of our political ideologies and economic ideologies, there is a tremendous danger facing mankind today. And the void created by the failure of all these ideologies will be taken advantage by the churches and telling them that we all have to go back to Jesus.
To Jesus. Yeah.
Or go back to the great traditions of your own countries. But what has failed them is not going to help us to solve the problems. There is a tremendous danger of all these cultists stepping in and telling the people that we have answers for your problems created by the failure of all the political ideologies, all the economic ideologies, that we have wasted our faith in them. They have failed. They have not solved our problems. There is a great danger that all these cultists will step in and try to tell people that we have the answers for your problems. But actually they don't have any answers. They all have failed. And it is the failure of these things that created the room for the growth of all the other ideologies. It is all that we are left with, and that is what I want to emphasize and sometimes overemphasize and tell people that this is really the crux of the problem and you don't have any answers. So when people come to see me, the psychologists, the scientists, I make this very clear to them. You have come to the end of your tether. And if you want answers for your problems, you have to find out answers within that framework and not look elsewhere and not look to these ancient dead cultures of the past. They really don't have any answers. It's the past that has put us in this awkward situation.
Right.
And it has created all these problems. Going back or looking to those systems that have failed, those techniques that have failed, is going to put us on a wrong track and put us on a merry-go-round, and we'll go on and on and on and on. Still we will have no answers for the problems that are facing the mankind today.
No, that's true. So indeed, a lot of people are looking back to a past as if the answers would be there, except we are all the result of that past, indeed.
It is only the result of the past, and if we are looking back to the past, we are already dead. You see, anybody says look back,
Yeah, right.
has no answers at all, you see.
Right.
So we have no future at all as long as we try to get the answers from the past that is dead. Anybody says look back, go back, has no answers to offer us. There is no future. Future is blocked by telling us that you have to look back, because it's the past that has put us in the present awkward situation. So we are not ready to brush the whole thing aside.
So all techniques, all the ancient techniques like meditation, yoga, tantra, you name it, Zen,
Everything has
Buddhism, Catholicism, you name all the isms, Islamites.
all of them have totally failed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been where we are today.
Exactly.
If there is anything to their claims, we would have created a better and a happier world, a different world.
Right.
So we are not ready to accept the fact that that is the one that is responsible for creating the sorry mess of we are all facing today.
Right. So indeed, if you look, for example, at a political system like fascism
Yes.
or communism, it looks very, very much like a religion, in fact.
You see, they have their own church, they have their own Bible,
Yes.
and
Their own gods.
their own gods. The
Right.
state is the church.
Yeah.
But
What I find very interesting is even our doctors are a leftover of the church. We have faith in our doctor. We have to confess to our doctor, otherwise he cannot give us your absolution. So you have big temples, you have exactly the same hierarchy as in the church of the Middle Ages,
yes.
and still millions of victims.
And we are partly responsible for that because we want to be victimized by them.
Yes.
And what is the point in blaming those people? You see, there's no point in blaming ourselves either,
No.
because it's a two-way game. You see, we play the game, and they play the game that we are all doing. But all we are doing is playing the game all the time. and pat on our backs and tell ourselves that all is right with the world. God is in the far heavens and all is right with the world.
Yeah.
It's a very comforting to believe that we are going to do something extraordinary in the future. So what we are left with is the hope, and we live in hope and die in hope.
Right.
That doesn't sound as a very promising thing, but the fact of the matter is that what we are all left with is the hope, you see. That's all that we are left with. So as I said, we live in hope and die in hope.
Yeah. We keep hoping.
And that's a very comforting thing,
Mm-hmm.
to hope that the future is going to be a marvelous thing. It is going to be tremendously different from what it has been all these years.
Yes.
But we are not doing anything to create anything new.
No, we just hope.
A rehash of the past, a dead past,
Mm.
giving new names and putting new labels. But basically and essentially, that has not helped, and it is not going to help. So it's not a question of replacing our ideas with new ideas, our thoughts with new thoughts, our beliefs with new beliefs. But the whole belief structure is very important for us. We do not want to free ourselves from the illusion. If we free ourselves from one illusion, we always replace it with another illusion.
Right.
If we brush aside and drop one belief, we will always replace that
Mhm.
belief with another belief.
Immediately.
So are we ready to be free from the beliefs? Are we ready to be free from the illusions which we have created ourselves? And certainly not.
Because
you
I
cannot,
think it's very threatening to be free of them.
we don't want to be free. So what is responsible for the problem is the fear of losing what we have and what we know. That's all that is there. See, all these therapies, all these techniques, religious or otherwise, are only perpetuating the agony of man. And it is very comforting for the people to believe that somehow, through some miracle, they are going to be freed from the problems they are confronted with today. But we go on and on and on, hoping that somehow, through some miracle or through this help of somebody, the latest in the marketplace who claims that he has just descended from heaven to save mankind, we believe, we fall for that kind of a thing. So it is, there is no way out of this, because we are all wholly and solely responsible for the problems we have created by ourselves and for others.
So if we have created problems, and we are fighting the problems, we are fighting something that we create.
Yes, but we are not ready to accept that the one that has created the problems cannot solve the problems. What we are using is what we call thought. So the thought is a protective mechanism. So anything that is born out of thought is only interested in maintaining the status quo. We may talk of a change, but actually when time comes for us to change the things, we are not ready for it. Change is always for the better and not for the worse.
Yeah, right.
So we are not ready to accept the fact that what is responsible or what is it that has created these problems cannot solve the problems. We have a tremendous faith in that. And after all, that is the only thing that we have. See, that's the only instrument we have at our disposal. And we don't have any other instrument. So the tremendous faith we have in that instrument as the one that will help us to solve the problems cannot actually help us to solve the problems. It can only create problems. It cannot solve the problems at all. We are not ready to accept that fact, because that will knock off the whole foundation of the whole human culture.
Right.
We are not ready for that kind of a thing. We want to replace one system with another system. That's all that we can do.
Yeah, right.
But the whole thing is pushing us in the direction of total, complete annihilation of all that we have built with a tremendous care. That's all that we are left with it. So we don't want to be free from fear. That's all that is there, you see. Anything you do to free yourself from fear is the one thing that is perpetuating the fear. So is there any way we can be free from fear? We don't want to be free from fear at all. Fear is something which cannot be handled by the thought. It is something living. So we want to put on gloves and try to touch it, play with it, and play games with it, and talk about freeing yourself from fear, and go to this therapist, that therapist, follow this technique, that technique. And in that process, what we are actually doing is strengthening and fortifying the very thing that we are trying to be free.
You're putting a lot of energy into fear and it grows.
Yes. The tremendous amount of energy we put into that is to solve these problems. If it is released, I say if it is released, there is no way you can do anything about it.
Right.
But if you are lucky enough to find yourself in a situation where you are freed from this fear, and that energy is released, living in this world, a complex and complicated situation would be very, very simple and very easy.
So we live in a society, of course, that's totally based on fear. I mean, all our institutions, police, banks, doctors,
Everything.
insurance, you name it, everything we have created is based on fear.
And fear, that is all that is there. But what is the point in telling ourselves that we are going to be free from the fear?
Mhm.
If the fear comes to an end, you will drop dead. Physically, clinical death will take place. Because you and fear are not two different things. It is comforting to believe that you and fear are two different things. You are frightened of certain things. You do not want this thing to happen. You want to be free from fear. All this is very comforting, but there is no way you can separate yourself from fear and do anything to free yourself from fear. If the fear comes to an end, you as you know yourself, you as you experience yourself, that you is coming to an end, and you are not ready for that kind of a thing.
No. Our mind desperately wants to live.
Yes. So we enjoy our fear.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, we do.
Mhm.
And so why talk of freeing yourself from fear? That's all that I'm asking.
So the only alternative is to love it,
You love,
to fear.
there's fear.
Mm.
If you don't have a problem, you create a problem.
Yeah,
See, if you don't have a problem, you don't feel that you are living.
right.
So the solutions that we have been offered by the teachers in whom we have tremendous faith, invested our faith, are not really the solutions. If they were the solutions, the problems wouldn't be there at all. If there are no solutions for the problems, even then the problem wouldn't be there. We would like to live with those problems. And if we are lucky to be free from one problem, we create another problem. Unless you have a problem, you don't feel that you are living.
Right.
That you are not a living being.
But it's a little bit the same as if you go to a movie and there's only nice cowboys in it. You would be very bored.
No.
Isn't it?
Because you see, the boredom is a bottomless pit, you see. So there is no way you can be freed from boredom. You love your boredom.
Mhm.
And all the time you are trying to free yourself from boredom. As long as you think that there is something more interesting, more purposeful, more meaningful to do than what you are actually doing, you have no way of freeing yourself from boredom. So it goes on and on and on and on. So if you don't entertain yourself with a cowboy movie, you go to a church and pray, or you go to a temple and pray, or you listen to a holy man telling you all kinds of cock and bull stories, selling you some shoddy piece of goods, stand on your head, stand on your shoulders, do this, do that, and you will be all right. But the basic question which we are all not willing to ask is, what is it that we want? Whether you are here in Holland or in America or in Africa or anywhere, what we are really interested in is the quest for permanent happiness. That's all that we are interested in. And so all these religious people, the gurus, the holy men, who are marketing all these shoddy pieces of spiritual goods are telling us that there is some way you can be in eternal happiness and permanent happiness. But that doesn't happen. So we invest our faith in them. We go on and on and on doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that gives us hope, and we continue to live in that hope. but it does not help us to get what we are really interested in, and that is to be permanently happy. There is no such thing as permanence at all, let alone permanent happiness. So this quest for permanent happiness is a lost battle, and we are not ready to accept the fact. What we are left with is some moments of happiness and some moments of unhappiness. If we are not ready to accept that situation and demand a non-existing permanent happiness, we are not going to succeed. It is not just a question of succeeding or wanting to be in a permanent state of happiness, but that demand is the enemy of this living organism. It is not interested in happiness at all. So it is interested in its survival, and what is necessary for the survival of this living organism is the sensory perceptions and their sensitivity and the sensitivity of the nervous system. The moment you find yourself in a happy situation and tell yourself that you are happy, the demand that the happiness should continue for a longer time is bound to be there. So when the more you try to keep that sensation of happiness longer than its natural duration of life, the more is the danger for this system, which is interested in maintaining its sensitivity. So there is a battle going on there between your demand for permanent happiness and the demands of the body to maintain its sensitivity, and it is a battle that you are not going to win.
No, never.
But and yet you are not ready to give up the battle.
So the body, say, goes through processes, you can say?
Yeah, you put that to torture.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't accept. So one process you don't accept, and the other process you want to make longer and longer.
Longer and longer. And that it destroys the sensitivity of the whole nervous system.
Right. The body suffers.
The body suffers. It is not interested. So all your techniques of meditation are only destroying the peace that is already there. That's an extraordinarily peaceful organism. So it doesn't have to do anything to be in a peaceful state. So by introducing this idea of a peaceful mind, we set in motion a sort of a battle.
Right.
And the battle goes on and on and on and on. But what you feel, what you experience, a peaceful state of mind, is a war-weary, battle-weary state of mind created by your thought. So if once you experience some peaceful state of mind, you want more and more of the same. So it goes on and on and on and on.
And by wanting more of the same, you literally harm your body.
Harm the body. In the long run, the body is not interested one way or the other.
No.
So you pay a heavy price.
So what we do, what we learn basically, is that, like, say, for example, when a baby cries,
You have
it
to
has no idea of crying.
No, you have to let the baby cry and cry and cry, and the baby will stop crying afterwards.
Automatically.
Automatically. The baby will be exhausted.
But we tell a baby, oh, that's terrible, oh, no, you shouldn't cry. We give this idea to the baby that it's wrong to cry.
Wrong to cry because she's trying to express through that crying some discomfort. We don't understand what the discomfort is. We are interested in our comfort and stop the baby from crying.
Right.
And so there the neurotic situation has already started there in the child.
Right.
We don't have the energy to deal with the problems of a living being there. The child is a living thing. It would be more interesting to learn from the children than to try to teach the children how to behave, how to live, and how to function.
Yeah, right. How to suppress, basically,
because we
functions.
suppress everything in us, we want to suppress everything in the growing child.
Right.
So we have created a problem there already for the child. Instead of finding out that we don't have the energy to deal with those problems of children, we curse them and then we push them to fit into this framework of ours created by us for our own reasons.
And that's what we call culture.
That is what we call culture. Culture is not anything more mysterious. It is your way of life and your way of thinking. All the other cultural activities we consider it very creative, are part and parcel of this, your way of life and your way of thinking.
Mm.
So in that broad sense, culture is nothing but your way of life and your way of thinking. And so your way of thinking is the one that has created all these problems for us. There is no way you can free yourself from the problems created by thinking through setting in motion another kind of thinking,
No,
another
it's
line of thinking.
right. It's the thinking itself that has created.
The thinking comes, you see, actually there are no thoughts there. The thoughts are not self-generated, they are not spontaneous. We never look at thought. So what is there is about thought but not thought.
Right.
So we are not ready to question that and face the fact that they are not spontaneous, created by us, they come from outside. So outside in the sense that when there is a sensory response to a stimulus, we translate that sensation within the framework of our knowledge and tell ourselves that that's the sensation. You give a name, you recognize that and give a name to that sensation. So that is what you see the memory is all about. So what is there is only the memory. The memory, where is that memory? Really, nobody knows what that memory is.
Right.
You can say that they are neurons. So when once you see the sensory perceptions activate the senses that are involved, that in its turn, they in their turn activate the memory cells. And so we capture every moment there within the framework of the memory structure and translate it. And naturally, the memory is born out of our demand to isolate ourselves and censor the sensory perceptions, filter the sensory perceptions to maintain the status quo, to maintain the continuity of the movement of our knowledge. So we may talk of freeing ourselves from knowledge, but everything we are doing is not freeing us from the movement of knowledge, but it is strengthening and fortifying the very thing that we are trying to be free from.
But these ideas that you are talking about now, about what thought is actually doing to us, I hear, for example, also now with like some certain quantum physicists, like David Bohm, for example, he's pretty much telling now the same things, that we are literally, we are not thinking about the universe, we are thinking the universe, he says.
We are creating the universe
Ourselves.
We have no way of looking at the universe at all.
At all, no.
So the model that we see is created by our thought.
Right.
So even the scientist who says he is observing certain things, he has no way of observing anything except through the mirror of his own thinking.
Right.
So he is influencing what you are looking at.
Yeah.
So whatever theories he comes up with are only theories,
Right.
but it's not a fact to him. So even if you are looking at this object physically, without the thought interfering and translating what you are looking at, the physical looking is affecting what you are looking at. So there is no way you can capture and contain and give expression to what you are looking at. You dare not look at anything. So they can come up with all kinds of theories, hundreds and hundreds of theories, and you can award Nobel Prizes and give some prestigious rewards. That's all that they are interested in. But are we ready to accept the fact that there is no way you can look at anything? You are not looking at anything at all. Even the physical looking is influenced by your thoughts. And there is no way you can look at anything without the use of your knowledge you have of that. So it is that is creating the objects. That's what you think, but it is that is creating the observer. So this whole talk of the observer and the observer and observed, and there is neither the observer nor the observer, the perceiver, the perceived, the seer and the seer. And
That's endless discussion.
Endless metaphysical discussions. There is no end to that kind of a thing.
Right.
And to believe that there is an observation without the observer is a lot of baloney. See, there is no such
Hogwash.
hogwash, hot air. There is no way you can look at anything without the looker, who is the product of his thinking, can
Now,
look at anything.
this week, or coming week, I mean, there's going to be a very important meeting in Amsterdam, and I think this country is one of the few countries that is able to actually organize this, where very important scientists from all over the world, top people, and people from the spiritual world, like the Dalai Lama, for example, and people from the art, like John Cage and Robert Rauschenberg, and people from industry, from economy, now for the first time come together to talk about the similarities instead of the differences. Because until now we've really focused on the differences, on the compartments we've created in our minds, but now they all get the feeling that perhaps they should start to support each other instead of
You see, first of all, they have to understand that these scientists, by looking are asking for help from all these religious people, are creating or committing the biggest of all blunders. They have come to the end of their tether. So if there is a problem for them, they have to solve the problems by themselves and for themselves. If they are looking for some solutions to all these religious people, they are committing the biggest of blunders because they have no answers for the problems created by the scientific thinking of man. I do not know it will be by coming together and exchanging their views or giving speeches, they are going to achieve anything. It may sound very cynical when I say that nothing is going to come out of it except to make speeches and feel comfortable that they are trying to understand each other's point of view. So when you talk to somebody, he comes out saying that that is your point of view, but he does not realize and understand that his also is a point of view. So how can there be any communication between those two people who have two different points of view? So the whole conversation, dialogue, is only to convert the other man to your point of view. So if you have no point of view, there is no way he can convince you and convert you to his point of view, and he cannot convert me to his point of view. So this dialogue is between 2 points of view, and there is no way you can reconcile these 2 points of view. The conference is very interesting. They can all come together and talk about that, exchange their views, and there it will be. And it will be something like the United Nations. The United Nations is the biggest joke of the century. See, each one is trying to assert his own rights there. And how can there be a United Nation? So what the problem is that the thought creates frontiers everywhere. That's all it can do. Differences. So it is that has created the world, and you draw lines on this planet. This is my country, that is your country, this is your country. And so how can there be unity between these two things? The very thing that is creating the frontiers, the very thing that is creating the barriers, the very thing that is creating the differences cannot be the means to create a bridge